Hey, this is James Arnold Taylor, voice actor, the voice of
Yabba Dabba Doo, Fred Flintstone,
Johnny Test, who's 11 years old and totally awesome,
Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, Tidus from Final Fantasy X. Oh, yes, and of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It wouldn't be coffee with Kenobi without yours truly. The Force is strong here indeed.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z. and Corey Clubb.
Hello, this is Corey Clubb, and welcome to show number 12 of Coffee with Kenobi, a brand new Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. With me is my good friend and co-host, Dan Z.
Hello, everybody. Thanks to everyone for making our last episode with Dr. Andrea Letamendi and Trisha Barr such a big success. Both Drea and Trisha have featured us on their Twitter feeds as well as on their sites, and that is awesome. We have enjoyed a lot of positive word of mouth on the show, as well as our show in general, and we can't thank our listeners enough. Each of you is spreading the word, and we really appreciate it. If you want to continue to help spread the word, please write a review in iTunes, as it helps put our show out to even more Star Wars fans.
In today's show, we're ecstatic to share a cup of coffee with James Arnold Taylor. We've been looking forward to this moment for a very long time, and we're so grateful that James, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi of Star Wars The Clone Wars, is joining us. James is here to share his thoughts on the topic for show number 12, Obi-Wan Kenobi. James certainly needs no introduction to Star Wars fans. We couldn't have a better guest talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi himself. We discuss his character, the Rako Hardeen arc, the Mortis trilogy, attachments and the Jedi Order, and Obi-Wan's relationship with Anakin. We also get to hear about James' brand new book, JAT 365. This is truly an interview you've been waiting for.
We also have the next offering of your Espresso Shot with the Bearded Trio, featuring Rob Wainfur, as well as discuss the newest Star Wars character, Chopper, and more Rebels information. In addition, find out how you can meet George Lucas and Mark Hamill, talk about Melinda's latest contest, and find out more about new additions to Disney Infinities. We'll also introduce our topic for show number 13. And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting.
You found something.
Our first news story comes straight out of the brand new animated series Star Wars Rebels. Looks like they shipped out a bunch of brand new propaganda posters, basically promoting brand new series. It looks like they're very Empire related. They got a bunch of ships, they got Imperial pilots, and they've got the brand new Inquisitor kind of featured on some of these.
Yeah, they are gorgeous. They apparently, and this is all through IGN. It was pretty cool how Lucasfilm did it. There were 6 of them, and every website was featured. It featured a certain one, like Empire Online, IGN, TheForce.net, Mashable, Omelette, which I'd never heard of, and then ET Online. There were 2,500 of them mailed out. They're limited edition sets representing the world of Star Wars Rebels, and it's from original illustrations from Amy Beth Christensen, and she's a member of the Lucasfilm animation art team working on Rebels. And we're looking at them, and Lisa actually just put the post on our website for everyone to see, but I wonder if this is just sort of the tone of the show, or this is just kind of something that they were showing just to be clever. And when you think about propaganda, I mean, my goodness, if you've ever seen anything with the Vietnam War or World War II, whenever propaganda was used, they try to play into that side. It almost has a feel to me like from the 40s and the Captain America film and all the different propaganda used to kind of rah-rah everybody, which clearly is what Rebels is going to be about as the Empire grows.
Another thing about these, Dan, is that looks like they're taking straight out of like a McQuarrie's archive. You know, there's sort of that vibe to them. It's very kind of big in your face. Big, colors are really bold. I also noticed that none of the characters on here are smiling. They're all frowning, except for the first one. Well, the TIE Fighter pilot was got a thumbs up, so maybe he's excited. I don't know. But these again, stern. Like you said, very stern. They look great. Serious. They look very serious. Looks like they're ready for action, and these would look great on our wall.
Wow, talk about a really neat collectible. Very cool. How do you like how they're slowly phasing out this information?
I like it, actually. I enjoy it kind of because it's something different every time. They're keying in on certain characters, or they're giving new set pieces, or just bits and pieces of information, just giving you excited things because I think they're trying to build a lot of steam on this series. They want to kind of get people excited, which they are, but they're giving it out in nice little doses that we're not like, this is ridiculous, we haven't heard anything yet. So I think it's a good thing that they're putting a lot of these out.
Bridging right from that is, of course, meeting Chopper. Now, the Chopper news broke after we released our last show with Dr. Andrea Letamendi and Trisha Barr, but we had to talk about it here at least a little bit. In fact, we even debated releasing a Rebels Reactions about this, but Chopper is the newest addition to the Star Wars universe. We got a really cool email giving us some images and the link to the YouTube video. And there's some interesting things here. He's a little bit shorter than R2. He looks like he's not quite as in good of condition as R2. You can tell he's a lot of older parts. It's basically taken from that early Ralph McQuarrie concept of R2-D2 with the arms that come out of his head. An interesting quote from Dave Filoni on this, which you can see the video on our shows, on our webpage and on our show notes. But Dave Filoni said, if R2 is the family dog, Chopper is the cat. And I guess that's to kind of demonstrate what his personality is like.
I must also say he's a member of the Ghost team, or the Rebels team, so he is kind of like a bucket of bolts looking guy. Looks kind of like very used and looks very pieced together, like Dan said, and they pulled straight out of the McQuarrie designs originally, that this character was kind of almost, you want to say, set in, looks like the early designs, but he looks really cool. I know in the video Dave Filoni talks about his attitude. He's kind of like a grumpy little droid, and it gives us some character because R2's always kind of easygoing and seems to...
Well, the thing about... They compare to R2, but R2 doesn't take any sass from anybody.
No, I was going to say something like R2's a little sarcastic as far as his comments back. He's not rude, but he's sarcastic, so it's a good fit, I think.
It is. How do you feel about this idea that he's like a cat? Are cats grumpy? I mean,
yes,
not if you give them lasagna, they're okay. That's a
Garfield.
very dated joke.
Well, Garfield's grumpy and moody. Oh, yeah, definitely. What are you talking about?
His name is Chopper, but he's also... It's C1-10P. I'm assuming it's C1-10P, not C1-10P. It's C1-10P makes sense.
Yeah, I love how the droids always have the kind of these designated numbers that kind of seem to go along with their name, but also could be kind of translated into actually a written name. So it's interesting that they're doing the C1-10P. It
reminds me of that classic C-3PO, SEE space THREEPIO, that you're taking that letter and number and making an onomatopoeia of it and stretching it out. So that's what we've got here with Chopper, and he's already become a fan favorite. I think it's a little premature to get super excited about it, but I mean, it's interesting. I'm the kind of person that I just don't, every time something new Star Wars comes out, I don't jump up and down and proclaim him the greatest character that ever lived. I need to see some character. I need to see him in action. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, the original trilogy is almost told exactly through the droids' adventures in their eyes. True. Through the first movie and the second movie and third movie too. I mean, they're all there and they all have parts they play, but I think they're kind of like the audience, if you will. Mm-hmm. They're kind of the observer, and I think maybe that Chopper will be that for us. Rolling right along with our Rebels theme here, we get into a little bit of the details about the background of the story that's taking place in the animated series. Dave Filoni had a lot to say about the new planet that's introduced. It's Lothal. I'm going to go ahead and read here what he has to say about it. Rebels takes place on the Outer Rim. The audience typically thinks of Tatooine as the place where Luke Skywalker grew up when the Outer Rim is mentioned. We are on a more civilized planet, and one that has profited from the Empire's existence in the beginning. Most of the stories take place on the planet Lothal, which is a grass planet with large monolithic stones on its surface. The look comes from Ralph McQuarrie's concept paintings that were done for the original Star Wars films. We tried to make Lothal look and feel like a planet that would have been in the original film trilogy. It's alien, but you feel like it's someplace you could visit on Earth geographically. Hoth, Tatooine, and Endor are all like this, so we think it fits well. And I think I agree with Dave Filoni there, talking about this new planet. It's interesting. I'm excited to see something brand new. I'm excited to see what happens.
I'm particularly happy that they're taking the original approach, as a lot of people have mentioned. And one of the things that I felt was missing from the prequels is that some of the locations and planets felt artificial. They didn't feel organic or come to life. And just seeing some of the images that we've seen in illustrations of Lothal, and we talked about this in our Rebels Reactions, the second one that we had released. This does feel more like the original films, and it looks like somewhere that you could actually go and visit here on Earth, which obviously you can't do. But it just gives it more verisimilitude, more believability, and it's just something that helps you to buy into it and enjoy the story more. Again, nothing but promise and anticipation and excitement, because it looks like they are really giving all they have into this series. I miss the Clone Wars as much as anyone, which we'll talk about very soon, but this has a lot of promise again and again and again.
I would say that if you were to visit geographically on Earth, I would like to say that Ralph McQuarrie himself probably did some kind of scouting of some sort of some kind of landscape, getting in mind for some of these planets in mind. So I wonder if that was taken from maybe somewhere he lived or somewhere he visited. So I would like to assume that maybe we could visit it someday.
That's true. Or maybe he just had neighbors who didn't own a weed whacker.
Very good.
This might be a good time also, Corey, to restate our rumor policy. There's been a lot of debate and discussion on Twitter, particularly about rumors. We are very much aware, friends of our show, that there are all these Lego pictures out and all this kind of stuff. But as our thesis and our drive and our focus of this podcast is always going to be, until Lucasfilm or Disney releases it officially, we're just not going to speculate, because to us that's part of the fun, waiting to see. There's other stuff out there, and there are plenty of places where you can find that information, and they're wonderful places to explore and to find out. But for us, we're just going to stick with what we actually know when we know it, and to me that just enriches the experience. So, Corey, what would you do if I called you and I said, oh, by the way, we're going to go meet George Lucas at Skywalker Ranch, and Mark Hamill's going to be there too? How would you feel about that?
Well, Dan, I'd say I'd probably have died and gone to geek heaven if that's the case. But definitely, definitely sign me up. Let's do this. On
our website, omaze.com, it all benefits Make-A-Wish, and you and one person get to tour Skywalker Ranch, meet Lucas. It sounds like an absolute dream come true. I did sign up for it. It's $10 for one entry. You meet George Lucas and you fly to LA to hang out with Mark Hamill at Nerdist Studios, airfare and hotel. And again, it's all for a great cause for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. They've done things like this before. They've taken fans on the set of How I Met Your Mother, among other things. The actual meeting is going to happen on February 21st, so jump in there now. And the more money you put into this, the more chances you get to win. And Mark Hamill's giving out autographs and things like that. It just sounds amazing. I got to be honest, I got an email after I signed up, and a couple days later it popped up. And when I read it and glancing, I thought, I won. And then I realized, oh, they're just verifying that I entered. So no such luck yet for us to interview George Lucas for Coffee with Kenobi. But man, what an awesome competition.
I think, too, it'd be any Star Wars fan's dream just to shake his hand. And Mark Hamill, too, I think he's a great actor and voice actor. And these guys are the real deal. I mean, this is what made it happen for all his fans and all those years ago getting into this. And to be able to experience this and make a great contribution to a great cause, it's all the better. And I'll have the link on our show notes for more information.
Our next news story has to do with Melinda's Brew, her latest blog. Melinda Wolf, of course, our great feature blogger here at Coffee with Kenobi, who has been so awesome and so successful. Mark Newbold from Jedi News UK was kind enough to post a link on their spectacular website about this, because she brought up an interesting topic, in which was Luke Skywalker the chosen one and not Anakin? And it caused more feedback on that post than any post we've ever had on our website. And not only was that awesome, but she's having a Coffee with Kenobi raffle for Valentine's Day. And the deadline is Monday, February 10th. Basically, what you do is you get onto the site and you leave a comment that says, throw my name into the hat. And she's going to draw somebody's name, and she's going to announce it on February 15th on her next blog. So, again, awesome stuff from Melinda, and a very, very generous thing as well.
Can I say, Dan, that past winners have won a multitude of Star Wars stuff. I think one of them was the Star Wars Frames book. Yeah, huge win.
Serious, yeah.
So that was awesome, and we commend Melinda for sending that out and doing this for us. We appreciate that. So put your name in the hat and check it out, read it through, and post your comments and your thoughts. Let's get the conversation started.
You know, there's so many great bloggers that are. I mean, Melinda posts twice a month. We've got a lot of other bloggers who are passionate about Star Wars. So of course, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. We say that every show, but it's pretty fun what's going on with our site. We're excited. And now let's join Rob Wainfur as he pours your espresso shot with the Bearded Trio.
And now, your Espresso Shot with the Bearded Trio.
Hi everyone, welcome to another Espresso Shot with the Bearded Trio, with me, Rob Wainfur. And let's start with some George Lucas news, and not the best news, unfortunately. His plans and proposals for an art museum at the base of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco have been rejected by the board. The board, consisting of 7 members, on Monday rejected the plans. All 7 members, unfortunately, rejected the plans, plus 2 other plans that were being considered. They said they just didn't think any of them quite hit the mark. They did say, however, that they would try and help George Lucas and his plans for an art museum for an alternative site. But this didn't go down too well with David Perry, who was a spokesman for George Lucas and the Lucas Group. And he said that they were surprised that there was an alternative site, because for the last few years they've been told that the only site available was the one they've been competing for. So I get a feeling that this hasn't quite finished yet, and we will keep you posted on this development. Let's do some lighter news now. And last weekend, the Annie Awards took place. Now, the Annie Awards, it recognises excellence in animation, and it was no surprise that Disney's Frozen was the big winner. It actually walked away with 5 awards. But DreamWorks Animation was holding its own, because it took away 3 awards for the Croods. The categories it won was in the character animation, character design, and animated effects categories. Industrial Light and Magic also won an award as well in a live action production category, and that's for its work on Pacific Rim. And finally, Steven Spielberg was also honoured at the awards as well for his exceptional contribution to animation. So good news for the 3 there. Spielberg is up for another award. The Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Foundation will award Steven Spielberg its annual Lincoln Leadership Prize. In a statement, they actually said, "We are pleased to present this year's Lincoln Leadership Prize to Steven Spielberg, who brings socially relevant issues to the forefront of our minds through the medium of film." Spielberg said in a statement that he's humbled to receive the award that embodies both his legacy and the profound contributions he made to this country. The award will be presented to Steven Spielberg at a dinner at the Hilton Chicago on March the 19th. Well, here's some fun news. The 80s classic Back to the Future is set to debut in London's West End in 2015 as a musical. Robert Zemeckis, who co-wrote and directed the 1985 Michael J. Fox film, will actually reunite with co-writer Bob Gale to pen the book for the stage adaptation. Bob Gale did say that it's going to be true to the spirit of the film without being a slavish remake. We intend to use music from the movie along with brand new songs to make a version of Back to the Future that is fresh, entertaining, and takes advantage of all the amazing things that can now be done on stage. So expect to hear Huey Lewis's Power of Love and Back in Time, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Sandman is in there as well. Now, composer Alan Silvestri, who did the music for the 3 Back to the Future movies, will be on board as well. He'll be the co-author of the music and lyrics for the show, along with songwriter Glenn Ballard. Now, I'll keep you up to date on this one, because this has got to be a must-see. A Back to the Future musical. How good does that sound? I'm sure they'll have a DeLorean on stage, and I'd like to see how they get that DeLorean up to 88 miles per hour. We'll keep you updated on this one. Well, that's it from me. To quote Biff from Back to the Future, I'm going to make like a tree and get out of here. A little bit of Jurassic World news for you. Chris Pratt has now officially been confirmed for the movie. He went on record as saying that Jurassic Park is his Star Wars. He grew up with it and he can't wait to be in the new movie. So that's it. You can find the Bearded Trio on Facebook. Just type in the Bearded Trio. We're also on Twitter at the Bearded Trio. If you've got any suggestions, comments, or any feedback, you can email me, rob@thebeardedtrio.com. I'd love to hear from you. And just before I go, I'll leave you with one of my favourite scenes from a Spielberg-directed movie. Thanks for listening. Until next time, goodbye.
For once in your life, would it kill you to pick it up? Help me get this thing out of here.
No, we just
Mommy's very angry.
Han Solo, Rebel Soldier, Lando Calrissian, and Bespin Guard, each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back Collection, new from Kenner.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say,
Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
Our first item for collector's news is the Marvel Universe and Star Wars Universe joining Disney's Infinity video game series. This has been quite the successful series for Disney. They got a great lineup of Disney characters already. I know that my relatives have got the Disney Infinity that's already out with some of the people from Toy Story and Incredibles, and it's a lot of fun. We also have the Skylanders, which is a kind of an offshoot of a different series, but you put the character on this pad, and it goes in right into the game. You can play as the character, directly whenever you want. Throw anybody on there you want, and to open the floodgates of Marvel and Star Wars, there's just the possibilities are almost to infinity and beyond.
Wow, how about that? And it's actually a really cool thing. Like, so Skylanders started it, but interestingly enough, I put myself on that pad, and it turns out on video I'm very handsome.
Well, it always adds 10 pounds, though, so I don't know.
Oh, well, yeah, that's impressive. I'm pumped for this. This is really the first time we've covered a video game in our collector news, but I've been looking for a reason to get Infinity for a while. My goodness, there's so much time that goes into it. You mentioned there's like a toy box mode where you can take characters from different films and franchises and put them together and just run around. It's a non-linear approach to video gaming. That's, of course, how things work now, not when we were kids and Super Mario was how things ran. But it's super cool. It's just a natural. We knew that Star Wars and Marvel would join up. When it came out last year in August 2013, Disney sold over 3 million copies of its toy and video game product. And you mentioned there are action figures. They're basically like minis, PVC action figures, but the detail is quite exquisite. And so you have a collectible of the little figures, and you put them on the pad, and they go into the game. So if they do in fact follow through with this, we know how the video game industry can work. I think we'd have some fun video games to incorporate into the Star Wars universe with Disney characters. And we have these awesome little collectibles too, so it might be time for me to pony up for Infinity.
I know that they do have a Jack Sparrow character that goes onto the game, which is, I know Ed Dahlstrom would get really excited about that from the IndieCast. He's a big Jack Sparrow fan. I don't know if they have Indiana Jones or if this would open the doors to that too. We'll have to just wait and see.
Our next collector news is really not something you can collect so much as there are Star Wars themed football helmets that came out. I actually found this. Mike Pilot brought it to my attention, and I thought, oh, this is cool, and I noticed it during the Super Bowl, and I sort of wanted to bring up the Super Bowl anyway because we have the newest Seattle Seahawks fan in the history of the world, Corey Clubb, here with us to celebrate the Super Bowl.
Hey, don't hate, celebrate, okay?
Yeah, I saw that you posted that. What do you think of these? Aren't they super cool?
Yeah, the helmets themselves are rendered to look like you could pick them right up. They look great. Yeah, but they're kind of themed after kind of NFL teams that are already set in our world, I guess you want to call it. But it is a lot of fun. They look great. The logos look really professionally done. Looks like I'm ready to watch a game. Let's do this.
Seriously, the Broncos awesome. One is a tauntaun, and I didn't realize this until later when I saw it on Jedi News UK as well. But if you click on the bottom, it shows you 10 more helmets. So it's got every single NFL team. At first, I thought there were only 10, but they're all on there. Yeah, and so I was scrolling through, of course, to find the Bears because I'm a big Chicago Bears fan. And for the Bears, it was the Hoth Wampas. And it's got the H there like a C, and it looks awesome. So I love Hoth. Wampas are pretty cool, and it's the Bears. So pretty cool, pretty fun. If you're an NFL fan or at all intrigued, check it out because you'll enjoy it.
Well, even too that, like, if you look at the strap, they've even got the Star Wars language on the strap. So I want to translate those and see what those say. I mean, I'm sure it's the team name, but yeah, they're very professionally done. They look great. Oh man, they're really cool. So definitely check those out. The next item for collector's news has to do again with Rebels, the new animated series, and the character Chopper. Looks like they're debuting a brand new action figure coming out for the new Star Wars Rebel line, and I'm sure they'll have a bunch of toys for this new series. Again, it looks like the Ralph McQuarrie design. He's kind of a tubby little thing. Looks like a trash can a little bit, but he's got the orange top and the little arms and things coming out, just like the kind of they could described in the video. He looks really cool.
It's a cute little figure. For as far as I can tell, there's no release date on it. I'm sure it's going to come out this summer. But more Rebel stuff. I think the Inquisitor figure looks better, but based on what we've seen, the sculpts and the painting look really, really good. So more promise for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Listen.
A billion years in the making.
Off to Neverland.
What do you know?
Hey, Skywalkers. This is Sarah.
And this is Richard.
And we are Skywalking Through Neverland. We are a Star Wars, Disney, and pop culture podcast dedicated to spotlighting you, the fans.
We talk to fan filmmakers, fan fiction writers, and cosplayers just like you.
So I had Jesus battling Darth Vader.
Listen up every week to hear what fans around the world are up to.
I'm promoting a steampunk web series.
I'm working on a Catwoman short film right now.
There's also a web series at deathbiteseries.com.
This is Skywalking Through Neverland. Find us on iTunes, YouTube, and skywalkingthroughneverland.com.
And remember, Neverland on Alderaan.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Hello, this is James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, and this is the podcast you're looking for.
We are incredibly honored and thrilled to welcome Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, James Arnold Taylor, to Coffee with Kenobi. James is, of course, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Emmy-winning Star Wars, the Clone Wars animated series, as well as the Star Wars micro series. He also voices Plo Koon, Johnny Test, Fred Flintstone, Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, and countless others. He has recently released his inspirational book, Dad, 365 Inspirations for the Pursuit of Your Dreams, and has agreed to join Corey and me for a cup of coffee. Of course, we are beyond excited. Welcome, James Arnold Taylor.
Well, thank you. You know, I enjoy the fact that you heat the coffee with the lightsabers. It's good. That's a good way of doing it, yes.
It's our personal touch that we wanted to offer for you, of course.
Very nicely done. Yes, and blue, light color as well. Okay, I'll talk in my normal voice. But no, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Absolutely. Well, we'll let you know a little secret, James. Last February or March, when Corey and I were planning making Coffee with Kenobi, we made all kinds of lists, guests, topics, themes, music, all kinds of things. But our first list was dream guests, and we had 7 of them. You were number 1, so we are very thrilled that you were able to join us. Yeah, I promise.
Get out of here.
We don't lie to Jedis.
Well, that is. I'm very humbled by that, and I'm happy to be here, and I hope that I live up to expectations.
Absolutely. Well, we have no worries of that. So, Corey, okay, kick it off for us.
Sure. Our listeners know you as Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Clone Wars, but now as the series has come to a close, we're curious on how your experience has impacted your career as a voiceover actor, and how has your personal views evolved with the entire saga as a whole.
That's a great question. Thank you. You know, it is one of those things where whenever a show comes to an end, you usually kind of expect there to be some okay, I got to breathe. But with Clone Wars, it was such a impactful show, not just on fans, not just on the world of Star Wars, but on us as actors, on all the people involved in making it. And so it is one of those things that will always be with me and is with me still now. And we're still, all awaiting for new episodes and stuff too. So there's that, and there will be some more of it to be seen, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. But I think that the impact it had on me as a voice actor is it allowed me to show people what voice acting is in a way that I was trying to do before that and hadn't been able to because of I have my stage show Talking to Myself where I do that and I do all the voices on stage. But thanks to Star Wars Weekends, that was really the place that first allowed me to go ahead and put it out there and perform that show to a wider audience. And so that certainly had to do with Star Wars and the impact it had on me in that regard is huge. As well as just my views of the saga and such. I was always somebody that stood up for the prequels and such. I see the whole thing as a whole as just a beautiful story and wonderful. And there's different aspects of all of it. And you go through different moods in your life and the films hit different moods. And I think that everybody that is just lovers of 4, 5, and 6, I appreciate where they're coming from because that's my generation as well. I'm in my 40s and I grew up with them and I get it, but I also love the prequels for what they are. And through Clone Wars, watching them more, understanding the characters more, and of course the brilliant work that Ewan McGregor brought to this amazing character made a huge impact on me as a Star Wars fan and on the saga itself. I mean, it's a big thing to take all of that in and to know that you're a part of it. And I wake up every day just very blessed to be a part of it. So I'm thankful for the whole experience.
Oh, absolutely. And definitely as fans, we're blessed because as you are aware, James, not everyone who has been in Star Wars throughout the years has gravitated towards it after their time in the galaxy far, far away has ended. So we appreciate that you were still waving the flag for Star Wars as a community and for fandom. It's great to see.
Thank you. It is one of those things where I think that people have to put their guard down and give it a shot. It's like I always say to people, well, watch season 2, 3, 4, 5 of Clone Wars and tell me this isn't not just great filmmaking, but great Star Wars making. It really is good stuff, and it sucks you in, and it answers questions. And who doesn't love Star Wars? Come on! And if you don't, well, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Exactly. It's fun as a teacher too because every year I introduce Star Wars: A New Hope to students as we're looking at King Arthur. And once in a while, it's really a lot of fun. And once in a while, I'll get a student who has not heard of Star Wars or who hasn't seen it, so I get to introduce it to them. That's a real thrill as well.
Yeah. I have an 8-year-old daughter. Well, she'll be 9 next month, and she and I sat down with my wife, and the three of us watched A New Hope, and it was such an experience because here she's experienced Star Wars weekends for most of her life, actually. The last 6 years we've been going to Disney and all of that. And she knows all about all of the characters and all of this, but she's not experienced the movies yet because we waited to show them. And so it's really wild to see her opinion of it all and not knowing so many things that we all know too. It's neat that the magic is still alive. And I think that shows what George Lucas knew what he was doing when he created this story from the beginning, I think.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that I wonder when she looks at you, McGregor, was she at first thinking, wait a minute?
There is a confusion. When she hears him speak, she thinks it's me. And and sometimes she'll look at him, she'll go, that's not you, Daddy, is it? And I'll say, no, honey, no, that's not me. Initially my work as Obi-Wan really did start as matching him. So it involved, if you watch the Clone Wars, you certainly see that I'm not so much doing Ewan McGregor as much anymore. It's just kind of a combination of Obi-Wan Kenobi and my own version of him, which is great. But there is that touch of Ewan in there, and you can't deny his effect on that character. So yeah, she tries to figure it out. She gets it a little bit more now, but sure, it can be confusing.
Well, you gotta love the mind of a child. Right, both being dads ourselves, so we appreciate that. So we want to come out and hit you. At Coffee with Kenobi, of course, we like to peel the layers of Star Wars through a critical lens. Being an educator and a writer, as Corey is. So we did an entire show. It was our third show on the role of attachments in the Jedi Order. What is your opinion of the Jedi's view of attachment, and how much of a factor was that in the fall of Anakin and the Republic?
Yeah, isn't it funny? This is a whole... I mean, this would sound like if you came in the middle of this conversation, be like, what am I watching, CNN or one of these shows where they're debating? Because you can get very heated and political about it. I think it had a tremendous impact on him and his fall because of the restrictions and the rules and regulations. But as Obi-Wan, if I'm to put on my cloak as Obi-Wan, I think you've got this character that understands it all completely in the best way possible, yet still feels the pain of it and still feels the emotion of it all, what it means. And we got to, again, obviously I'm a lover of Clone Wars, but we really did, thanks to Dave Filoni, get to see how that impacted him in ways that we never really got to touch on in the show. And obviously thanks to George Lucas and the amazing crew there too, but getting to dive deeper into those storylines and see how that whole thing, of course, with Satine and such too, is how we cannot have those things. You have to be able to cut things off, even with the clones, not getting attached to clones, not getting attached to people, not being affected when somebody is in pain or in the midst of battle and such, having to go, well, we've got to move forward from here and go. And that is what a true knight is about. If you look at the classic knights and such, I think that there was a code that was there as well, but it's really been put into the forefront through the Jedi code. And I think that it's really neat. It's kind of a neat part of history, isn't it then too? I guess you could teach quite a bit on that. It's like throughout history, these codes of ethics we have and such, and I think it's part of their ethics as Jedi. But I also think that there's certainly backlash with any good. There's always some backlash that can come from it too. And it's very sad, isn't it? Because who of us should say that Anakin and Padme shouldn't have been together? It's
right,
because look at Luke and Leia. There's and when he was with her, again, regardless of what fans might think of Attack of the Clones, as far as the romance part of it, I enjoy that part. I enjoy seeing this character Anakin, who is this tortured soul, being sweet and lovely to this person that he just so cares for. That's important. It's an important part of humanity. So, gosh, I don't know. It's very deep. I could go on and on, but I know you guys have and could continue to as well. But I appreciate the question. I hope I didn't go overboard.
No, overboard is what we want. Yeah. We like that. In fact, we have a whole pot of coffee for you, James. So go overboard.
Oh, yes, a little more, please.
Yeah. You mentioned the idea of the attachment, and really, I think maybe that's one of the flaws of the Jedi is when they started to see things only in black and white and forget that the world is many shades of gray. And that kind of muddles everything, and no wonder there's so much confusion.
Yeah, in a perfect world, we would be as black and white as they are, but we can't be. And even Yoda, struggles with that, sees that conflict and tries to balance that. I mean, I see him now so much so as that one great balance of that with everybody and trying yet understanding where they're all coming from as well. And, and Mace puts on a brave face quite a bit as well, but we also see that, I think that there's some struggle there. I think it would have been interesting to go deeper on a character like Mace Windu and see how he dealt with it. You have to imagine that he had some conflicts. And Plo Koon, certainly, with his love of Ahsoka and, the backstory of Ahsoka and how Plo Koon discovered her, beautiful story. Dave Filoni has it all in his head because it's all his story, line there. But there's attachment there, that's a form of attachment of this little one. And yeah, it goes very deep. It does. And it's well put on
Thank
your
you.
end, not my end.
Oh, yeah. Well, right back at you, my friend. Thank you.
Well, James, considering your insights and understanding of Obi-Wan Kenobi are invaluable to deciphering his character, reflecting on the Rako Hardeen arc from Season 4, what did we learn about Obi-Wan Kenobi from this, and how much do you think contributed to Anakin's continual descent?
Ooh, Yeah, what as an actor, to go first to that side of it, what a powerful time in the studio when we got those scripts, and we literally got them as we walked in the door.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I had not got to see them. They had changed. They had some real restrictive things there with the shows, and we were literally getting the scripts right then. And it was pages and pages of dialogue, and it's like, oh, and you're doing Obi-Wan, and you're doing a different voice, and Obi-Wan dies, and what, and Anakin's betrayed, and all these things at first. And we had such a powerful moment. I remember when Obi-Wan, gets shot by Hardeen, and Anakin believes him to be dead, and Matt Lanter is one of these guys that everybody, hunky heartthrob, all this, but the guy is such a great, talented actor, generous actor, wonderful person, yet at the same time so fits Anakin Skywalker just perfectly, and made him so kind of, I don't know if lovable is the right word for a character such as Anakin, but he had this part where he just had to say Obi-Wan. He's shouting Obi-Wan, and we were all, Corey Burton, myself, we're all in the studio there, and we're like kind of choking up. It was so poignant and powerful, and he put so much into that, just even that, and his just like the thought that Obi-Wan is gone, and then that there's this kind of, well, is this a betrayal to me, that he didn't tell me this, and all. It was a very powerful, important arc in the story of not just Clone Wars, but in the story of Star Wars that I think not a lot of people caught on to, that you guys have really picked up in here too. I do think it was an important part of that, and it did contribute to his descent, as you put it. Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, and this is not an unprecedented for Obi-Wan either. I mean, many fans have, for whatever reason, fallen fault, and Obi-Wan explaining to Luke the true history at first of his father. But I mean, as a father myself, I can't imagine being reunited with a child and saying, "Oh, by the way, your father's the most evil person in the galaxy. Would you like some more to eat?" Yeah,
more coffee. No, that's the part I think that we kind of forget. Your father is the epitome of evil, is what he is at that point in time. And we're kind of looking, no, it's Darth Vader. No, this guy is bad news.
That's right.
And that's a great point. And it's also one of those things that I love, because I was just watching A New Hope 2 days ago, and I was studying Alec Guinness's performances, and because I always do, and knowing it now, when you watch and the whole story, and you watch what he did, even though he didn't know it, it's there. It's Luke's, how did my father die? And he gets that look. We all know the look. You guys can picture those scenes in your head the second we say it.
Absolutely.
And then he's got that sigh, and he kind of musters it, a young Jedi, and he goes into the whole story. There's something else there. Even if George Lucas didn't know it at the time, there was something there. There was a story there. And I think that that's powerful stuff. And I think that, people have to, it's unfortunate that Obi-Wan kind of became the scapegoat for some of these things, because his character was the one that first shared all this information.
Right.
But I don't think that was part of the plan, No. And so now it's because, some of that you go back and you look and you go, well, so I'm watching it when he first sees Princess Leia pop up on the hologram, and I'm watching it from the perspective of Obi-Wan, but also from the perspective of knowing the whole story. He's watching it going, that's Leia. He instantly knows who that is.
Right.
He's not just going, oh, it's a princess, So there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and it's too bad Obi-Wan gets thrown under the bus sometimes.
Right. Well, what a prescient comment you have there, because his knowledge, his foreknowledge, it really, Obi-Wan, the whole Rako Hardeen arc, maybe my favorite of the entire series. It's hard to say. The Satine arc in season 5 at the end was tragic and beautiful all at once. But it shows the fact that he's willing to let his friend / brother believe that he's dead for a greater good is very militaristic, which just shows how far the Jedi have fallen from, we are not warriors. We are keepers of the peace. It shows the machinations of the Emperor and what he has done. And and what someone like Obi-Wan, a true good guy, is forced to have to do because of these drastic situations.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, really very, very perceptive. And it is one of those things where you're just like, here's this character that starts this one way, and we know him this way, but then we go backwards into it's like, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. We're going back in time? What? And I love that stuff, but at the same time, it can create, whoa, wait a second, Doc, this is heavy, Marty, there's a problem with the time continuum, it's, so
that's so awesome.
Yeah. From a certain point of view, Marty.
Oh boy. Well, hopefully I'll just have the school fly you into my classroom. You can tell how insightful I was. Maybe they'll start listening to me.
That's right. Yes.
Actually, they're wonderful. They're wonderful. When they hear this, they'll know I'm joking. So while I know your time is precious, I want to jump in here. We want to talk about your book, and I just want to ask you one thing about the Mortis arc, because we couldn't have you on without missing that. But it's really like a graduate class in Star Wars philosophy.
Yeah.
It's really like an allegory, but it's so fascinating. But what do you think can be taken from that arc as opposed to the Rako Hardeen arc to learn more about Obi-Wan, Anakin, and their relationship to the Force and one another?
Yeah, well, okay. So, I mean, it's interesting. What I have found with the Mortis arc is fans either loved it or really didn't like it. I don't want to use the word hate.
Sure.
As a Jedi, I don't want to use that word. But I found it to be exactly as you said. I think it really did dive deep into this, and it told us a lot. And was it a dream? Was it real? Is it really something that's going to happen? Was there foreshadowing? Does Obi-Wan remember this stuff? Does Anakin remember this stuff? Any of that stuff. You can ask all these questions, but I think that it does show. It's always tough too, because I know things that everybody else doesn't know, and I have to always kind of edit myself too in thinking of these things. But I think it did actually help. Well, you look at for example. The new book Kenobi, which is a great book, and I hope everybody has picked it up.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and a great author too. Really nice guy. We had him on earlier.
Did you? Yeah, Jonathan's a great guy, and really gets into that. And of course, the book Kenobi is about him getting in touch with Qui-Gon, and in the Mortis ones, we see Qui-Gon. Now, it's more than likely it's not the same Qui-Gon. You know what I mean? It's from this planet, but we don't know. What is that? So there's all of those things that had to start kind of ticking up little things in Obi-Wan's brain of, well, wait a second, is this possible? Could I communicate with him? How is this happening? What is going on? And what is the Force, and where, who is this father, this daughter, this son? There's all these elements that were introduced that I understand why it puts people off kilter at times, but I think it was a powerful part of the story and a powerful part of learning about the Force. And even if you want to look at it as that one crazy episode in Lost where they went off on this, there were those two people that we had never seen before on the plane, and then they ended up at the end burying them and all of that. And, it was a very strange kind of Twilight Zone episode. If you want to look at it as kind of a Twilight Zone arc of the Clone Wars, you can, with a little foreshadowing. And of course, it also allowed me to do, one of my favorite lines there, the whole, "You are my brother, Anakin," that whole thing. So, for me, I thought it was great.
It was. And I remember hearing, probably on the Force Cast at the time, now Rebel Force Radio, hearing you talk about being able to say those classic lines, which is really exciting. And I think one of the things I like about Mortis is that there's so much ambiguity. And of course, being a high school English teacher, I love ambiguity. So making people think and not having the answers provided for them, but providing, again, that giant framework that Lucas has where you're able to think about these things and enjoy this mythology that's been provided for us.
That's a great point. And I think that that's what we as fans need to do more of. We need to just stop getting so like, well, Darth Vader's button on the right should be red and it's white there. And, no. Let's all just enjoy Star Wars. Let's enjoy what the creator of it is saying here and the people he's entrusted to say the story with him. And go, okay, this is all part of it. I may not like this one thing. A lot of people may not like a particular impression I do. They may go, that doesn't sound like such and such. Well, okay, but I did it, and it's just part of me, and whatever. There's all parts of things of people that we don't like, and there's things that we love. And we have to just take it all in and go, but it does make up the whole of this. And that's pretty great, So I agree. We're on the same page here. Is it the coffee? Did you put something in this coffee?
Maybe some spice or something. I don't know.
Yes. I'm feeling a bit dizzy.
Well, we'll go ahead.
Agreeing with everything you're saying.
It's not a Jedi mind trick, I can assure you.
There you go.
No, I'm not accustomed to falling for that.
Well, switching gears a little bit, James, we'd love to talk to you a little bit about your brand new book you came out with, JAT 365, and we want to know a little bit more how that came about and why you decided to write that.
Well, thank you for letting me talk about it, and thank you for the shameless plug. JAT 365 came about because through the last many years, I've been posting on my social media, Facebook, Twitter, and the like, and I've always felt like, as somebody that has always tried to stay positive in his own life, because I found that it was the only way that I could achieve things in life was through a positive thought process, and really been affected by positive thinkers like Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking. I thought that was a great book, and it really kind of changed my life. And so I thought, rather than putting out just going to be at another session or, doing this voice or that voice, which is interesting, and I do those things from time to time, I thought, isn't it better to also put something out there positive each day to help people with their days? Because most people, especially folks that are following us, that are fans, they're going to a job, they've got family, they've got work, they've got homework, they've got all these things. And while it's exciting to learn about, what a voice actor is doing, you also want to feel, because with social media, we are all connected, we're closer, like this person's helping you. And I feel like I have a responsibility as a bit of a role model to help people. And so I started doing these inspirational things years ago. And then we realized we had so many of them. People started saying, boy, I'd buy a book of that if you had them all together. And I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. And I had been thinking about it before people had mentioned it as well. I thought, if I got enough of these, I could do a book. And then people kept saying it. I thought, well, that kind of confirms my thought that this would be a good idea. So when I had about 150 of them or so, I was like, I said to my publicist, Concetta, I said, I should put a book together. And she says, absolutely, you should. And so I just started collecting them, and then I started adding more to them. And then I challenged myself to do 365 of them, and to also do more than just the posts that you got online, but to put a question at the bottom of each page. And then above the inspiration each day is accept, forward, and practice. And it gives you the opportunity to accept the positive thought, to practice it, and to forward it on to people, and then to practice what you're reading. And then to journal about it too. So the book ends up being kind of a personal journal for your dreams and your goals as well. And hopefully at the end of the year, you can look through it and go, oh yeah, I had set a goal to, achieve this one thing. And look I did that, only 20 days later. And then I did this one and that. And I hope that people will be inspired and encouraged in their life to strive to do bigger and better things, because I think that all of us have that opportunity if we allow ourselves that opportunity.
Very well said. And I think folks like you who have a giant audience and such a big group of large people that listen to what you say and be able to make that positive energy just flow into their daily life, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a really good thing. And, again, the book is JAT 365 because it's James Arnold Taylor, which has kind of been the quickest, easiest way to associate me online and social media and stuff. So JAT Actor is my handle on Twitter and Instagram and such. And so James Arnold Taylor 365 days is where we got JAT 365. And, I think the cool thing is it's also done in numbers. So it's not in like January, February, March. So you don't have to start it at the beginning of a year. You can pick it up anytime, and you can set it down anytime. So if you go for 30 days and then you go, okay, I'm going to take a couple of days off from this and pick it back up, and you pick up from day 31 and you just keep going. And it's just, it may take you a year, it may take you 2 years, it may take longer, but hopefully you're inspired by the little things you read and you learn something about yourself and help others in the process.
And, I actually love the way that you put that together. I heard you on Full of Sith recently talking about that very idea, that it wasn't calendar-based, but just 365 aphorisms that you can attribute every day if you want. To me, it seems like when you have something like that, then it doesn't feel like homework or an obligation. It's just a joy to be able to peruse it at your leisure, and just there's no set time limit. I thought that was very smart marketing on your part.
Well, I did not like homework as a kid. I was not the best student in school. I was busy doing voices. So yeah, I've always been kind of under the guise of I need to be tricked into learning, and I'm a bit ADHD actually, and so I found that I did what I would like to have had done for me, and so that's where it came from. But thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's one of those things where you just hope people will take a look at it.
Well, when we're considering the premise behind JAT 365, your award-winning short film, The Audition, and then your worldwide stage show, Talking to Myself, you have a very common, positive, uplifting theme. And I'm a positive guy. Corey's a positive guy. But there are times, of course, where it's not always easy to be so positive. And I'm sure that a lot of our listeners have been in that situation a time or two in their lives. So what motivates you when that happens to continue to go inside yourself and continue to inspire yourself, your family, and your audience?
Yeah, well, no, it's a great question. I'm somebody with a faith in something greater than me. At one point in time, somebody did a greater thing for me, which was to stand up and take the shots for me in my life, and so I certainly want to be able to pay that back in whatever way I can by being the best person I can, but also just be inspired when I'm not inspired. And I think that that's really important because that's what helps us. A great writer, C.S. Lewis, once said that if you want to be like something, you should imitate it. And even before him, it was said in the old good book to imitate that we want to be. And so I try to imitate, as somebody that does impressions, I try to imitate that as well, and try to just be positive when I'm not positive. And I find that it helps me. And I certainly then surround myself with people that are positive, and we all try to lift each other up. I think that that's a very important thing for people, to have a good base of friends and family that are there to lift you up when you're down. And that also means being accountable to them, but them understanding and you understanding likewise that at times you just be like, you know what, I'm down and there's really nothing you or anybody else can do about it. I'm just down, but I just need to be heard about that. And sometimes just getting to speak it out helps. So, I would say to people when they're like that, that's why the book is there as well, to kind of help you at least pick it up and read through it and go, okay, this guy's positive. I wish he'd shut up, but he's positive. And that there will be a period in life when you're positive and you'll need to pick somebody else up. I mean, it's inevitable. It does happen. So I found that I have been blessed in my life more so by being positive than by being negative. And I've seen the positive effects of other people being positive. And it really does matter. But again, that positivity has to be based in something. You have to know what you believe and why you believe it, and be able to answer that. And so again, I try not to, I always say if anybody asks about me, I'm a Christian. I will always talk about my Christianity if they ask, but that is the thing for me that keeps me going, and it's my faith. And so that is, I think, what's the most important thing in life. And I hope that others will at least open themselves up to look at that wherever they can in their lives.
Well, amen to that. We definitely are in the exact same boat with you on that. And I think it's particularly important. I like that you emphasized not only faith, but having your home base, so to speak, your family, your friends, your outlets, and allowing yourself to be a human, and your perception defines reality. So you keep finding that focus. It's wonderfully put. Thank you for saying that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for letting me. When the scones and the coffee are gone, what happens then?
Well, that sometimes it depends on how nice the waiter and waitress are, if they kick us out or not. But they're saying we've got a few more minutes, so that's good. We'll finish up. How did you like your scone, by the way? Corey made it up this morning.
It's very good. It's quite tasty, although I am somewhat disappointed they won't allow droids in this place. Reminds me of another hive I was in once before.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, James, we've had the pleasure of having a number of guests. This is the first time we've had Obi-Wan Kenobi on. And what we'd like to do is we have 5 questions, very similar to Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton. We have 5 questions that we ask our guests. They're kind of yes or no, one word, one sentence answer, just to kind of see how you match up with the rest of your fellow Star Wars friends and fans.
Awesome. Yes, I'd love it. Yes, go for it.
Okay, the first question is, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh, dear. My favorite Star Wars film. I switch back and forth. It's kind of like, you can't have a favorite child. For people that have multiple kids, I do go back and forth, and it kind of is whichever one I'm watching at the time, because I love it and get into it so much. So that's a bit of a cheat, but it really is true.
Well, that's fair. And now the next question, this almost seems unfair, but who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Uncle Owen. No, I kid.
I didn't see that coming, actually.
Well, you know that Obi-Wan and Uncle Owen had such a wonderful relationship. So, no, my favorite Star Wars character, gosh, ask the 7-year-old James Arnold Taylor and he'd say Han Solo. Ask this one and I would have to, of course, say Mr. Kenobi.
I like that answer.
Yeah, very good. So your favorite line of dialogue or film moment from the Star Wars saga?
Ooh, see, now another thing that changes quite often. Gosh, I literally, as I mentioned before, how I said I was watching A New Hope the other day, I literally found myself choking up at times. And I know people might go, really, James? But yeah, I did. I just, watching this between Alec Guinness and Mark Hamill, and Mark, who is a dear friend now, just watching this and knowing stories of them working and how it was such a neat time for them. Those lines of dialogue and that whole, when he says, the Force will be with you always, and he leaves, knowing what that means now, or when he says, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine, knowing all of that, and that look he gives Luke when Vader just does it. Those are powerful moments. They really are. And there's some of my favorites, I think, in Star Wars history. But I'll also say, as just a total Star Wars nerd, when Yoda pulls out the saber to fight Dooku and then just goes for it, I remember like the lump in my throat and the hairs on my arms standing up in the theater and people cheering. There was something that you could not, that's not a line, but that's a moment in time in those films that was just so awesome. There's just so many of them though,
That when you said that, I had goosebumps because I remembered that moment. That and when Loki gets thrown around by Hulk in the Avengers are the two times in the theater where I've actually stood up and clapped.
Yeah. There's just so great, So yeah. Oh, that's cool. I love it. Yeah. Good. Okay. So how am I doing? One more.
You're doing well. Two more.
Good.
So far, you're getting an A, so that's good.
Okay. Good.
So you are good in school now. You just needed the right teacher, James.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so if you collect, what is your favorite collectible that you own?
Yeah, I got a question like this earlier today on Twitter, and people were asking if I collect Obi-Wan stuff, and I collect lightsabers. I love Obi-Wan's lightsabers. And my favorites are those, the hilts and stuff. I've got the really cool light up ones as well, but there's something about just the hilts because that really feels like it's a piece of the movies and a piece of history. And there's so much to look at and imagine because what it does with your imagination, it's like, oh, if this switch actually moved and then, wow, if that came out and it was, and you just, I'm like Luke when he first turns on the saber and he's just looking at it, So that is my favorite collectible.
But what particular messages or themes about Star Wars resonate or speak to you?
What messages or themes about Star Wars resonate to me? I think one of the biggest ones is Yoda with Luke, and Luke says, "I can't. It's too big. It's too heavy. I just can't do it. You want the impossible." And then the little guy with the big voice comes in, does it. And see, isn't it funny how ingrained this is in us that talking about it, I get emotional. And when he does that, and Yoda is such a father figure, and somebody, just on a very personal note, someone that I grew up without a father and never knowing my father, and I just found out 2 years ago who my real father was. Yoda is a father figure, and he's teaching his son Luke, at this point, who has been adopted to him in that, and it's beautiful, and he he says nothing is impossible. And, it reminds me of a greater teacher that came and did what everybody would think would be impossible, was to be perfect and to sacrifice himself for others. And in the end, that's the most important thing. And we do see that. And how great is it that Darth Vader becomes Anakin again and sacrifices himself for the good of all things at the end of Return of the Jedi? I mean, I think we kind of forget that to a degree, that he really did do that. He came back and he did that for his son, and he did that for everybody, and he did that for the good. And I think that's the theme to see there, is that somebody was willing to give up so much for you to have your life, your freedom. Boy, what more of a lesson is there in humanity than that? So,
wow, what a powerful answer there. That's good stuff.
That's so wonderful, because before I was a teacher, I led a few youth groups here in Illinois, and one of our nights was a Star Wars night, and I talked about the son offering redemption, and I actually tried to tie it into Return of the Jedi. I wasn't saying Luke was a Christ figure, but right. I love that you're saying that. I didn't expect the interview to go this direction, but oh wow, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for being so forthright with your faith. We are huge fans, so God bless you.
Oh, well, thank you, and God bless you guys too. No, that's I can't help but look at it that way, and I think that if more people saw it that way, that are of the Christian faith. I know a lot of times people are going to go, it's movies and Star Wars, and you shouldn't get wrapped up in all that. There's beauty in storytelling, and there's a romance in it. It's all right there, and it's it's great stuff, and it's how we affect each other in this day and age, and so it's important, I think, to know it. Yeah.
Well, there's that pathos. There's a reason why all these artists create the things they do. There's something that moves them, whether they realize it or not. And I think there's a lot of fans are moved by that, whether they realize it or not, too. So thank you for pinpointing that perfectly.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. I could use a little honey for this coffee. I know that sounds strange, but perhaps it's a bit of the English in me. This is better than, Seinfeld's comedians in cars getting coffee. I mean, come on.
I love that first one with Larry David. That was gold.
That was, yeah. It was pretty great stuff. But I enjoy what you have here, coffee with Kenobi. What a natural. Really, very quite good.
Well, wonderful. Well, as I mentioned to you before we were on the air, you were, when we had our dream list, when Corey and I had our dream list, James Arnold Taylor was number one, and all the stars aligned. So we're so grateful. James, before we let you go, how can everyone get in touch with you and get more of your insights, as well as how to purchase your book?
Well, thank you. Another shameless plug. We will say that people can go to jamesarnoldtaylor.com, and you can, from jamesarnoldtaylor.com, the homepage, you can follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, my YouTube page. You can watch videos. If you click up on the video thing, you can hear my demos for my voiceover work. If you're interested in becoming a voice actor, there's a VO tips page, and there's the stage show link, and it gets you to watch. You can watch the half-hour version at Disney Star Wars Weekends, or you can watch the full-hour version that I did at Celebration 6, where I hosted. You can watch the trailer for it, so you can see what my show Talking to Myself is all about. You can go to the Jat store, which is brand new, and you can get autographs of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Plo Koon, various characters that I do, as well as you can buy my book there. And we've got some good deals there. You can get it autographed there as well. And so jamesarnoldtaylor.com. If you're on Twitter, you can follow me at JATactor. And that's same on Instagram. And then on Facebook, you can look up my fan page and do that. And, Facebook has been not as, I post regularly on Facebook, but I'm finding that the Twitter and the Instagram ones are getting greater numbers and bigger followings. I think people are starting to just, get used to that 140 character thing. So it's good, but I hope people would follow me there, or at least go and visit my page and learn more about me.
Well, we will most definitely be putting all of those links in our show notes for sure. Well, James Arnold Taylor, thank you so much for sharing a cup of coffee with Corey and me. It truly has been a wonderful experience.
It's still Wolf.
and we're glad we found it to your liking, of course.
Quite good. Yes. This isn't from Tatooine, is it? They don't have the best coffee there.
No, they don't.
Too much sand in it, yeah.
Yeah, way too much sand. We had to get it imported.
Very, very nice, yes.
James, this has been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for being a part of our little show here and bringing your insight to our questions and your professionalism.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It just, as we said, just a natural fit for James Arnold Taylor, General Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, to be on Coffee with Kenobi. James Arnold Taylor, thank you so very much.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on Coffee with Kenobi, and the force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee. Guys, I really appreciate the time, and what a fun show, and I'm sure we'll do it again at some point.
Awesome.
All right, take care.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
More to add, do you?
We got one email on the topic of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We weren't able to get it in time when we talked with James Arnold Taylor, but I do want to share it with all of our listeners. And Corey and I have some things to say about it. It's from our loyal listener, Wayne, and he says that Obi-Wan is his favorite character in the entire saga, and it has been since the original trilogy. And he goes on to talk about what could he have done differently. And then he says something interesting, Corey. He says, everything and nothing, really. It's hard to evaluate a situation that you know is doomed from the start, and probably equally as difficult to write. What happened, happened. But looking within what we're given, we should find all that we need. Lucas gave us what we need with his writing. Words are chosen very carefully and with weight. We see very clearly in Clones that Obi-Wan is trying to be a parental figure to a cocky teenager. You will learn your place. He might as well have said, not while you're under my roof, young man. It really is the classic father-teen relationship you'd see in a standard coming-of-age movie. Probably not the easiest approach, trying to contain the chosen one. Anakin admits that he feels held back. Parents just don't understand, do they? Like the Will Smith reference there. And then he goes on later to say, in the whole fight, Obi-Wan is on the offensive. Even to the end, true to a Jedi, he warns Anakin, don't try it. After all, Anakin should have known better. That's Obi-Wan's move when he flipped Maul and cut him in half. He didn't say go for it. Like I said before, it's all in there for a reason. Clones is the film that shows the growth between the two men's relationship, father and son to brothers. They're practically finishing each other's sentences at the beginning of Sith. The haze of the Clone Wars have removed the father-son paradigm. Gone is the paternal bond. Replaced by a mutual admiration and respect, Anakin has grown and Obi-Wan respects that. He's given him his space. Perhaps too much. Anakin now still seeks out a paternal relationship in Palpatine. Obi-Wan's fault may have been his attachment to Anakin. His judgment has been clouded. He ceases to be the mentor Anakin still needed and was perhaps too quick to equal footing. Like some parents, they're perhaps too quick to be friends first. The council still halt to Anakin, and Obi-Wan wrestles with their order in relationship to him. He carries them out but is visibly conflicted. He can't even bring himself to kill Anakin at the end of the film. He's attached. I feel it's at this moment the realization hits him and he really loses it. He's broken. He neglected his role as a mentor. His Padawan has fallen to the dark side. As a father, he looks at him with what could possibly be seen as a resolve to let him suffer. Anakin has made his bed and now he must lie in it. Obi-Wan walks away. An odd choice, especially when the humane thing to do would be to put him out of his misery. Obi-Wan wants to pay his penance. Obi-Wan wants him to pay his penance. The logical conclusion is he'll die soon anyway. After all, who could perceive that someone would rescue Anakin? All these quick decisions have great consequences with the universe. Their backstory is a story so complex, it could have been played out over 12 films, let alone 3. In my mind, the only mistake I can fault with Mr. Lucas was putting Episode 4 in front of A New Hope. That one act overly compacted the backstory. We were never going to get more than 3 episodes set before that. Fortunately, the Clone Wars has gone a long way in rectifying this. Just a thought. Thanks for listening. Well, Wayne, that was tremendous. So many things to talk about. There's probably 3 or 4 topics for shows here. Right off the bat, I do find it intriguing, and I'm kind of working backwards here from what he sent us. I'm intrigued by the idea that he says their backstory is so complex, but Lucas shouldn't have put Episode 4 in front of A New Hope because they made him overly compact the backstory. I never thought they compacted it. I thought they maybe stretched it out maybe a little bit more. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. He did say that putting Episode 4 in front of New Hope. I think George Lucas had a good head on his shoulders at the moment there. He knew what he was going to do. As far as compacting the backstory, it didn't feel compacted to me. If anything, like he said, it could have been drawn out a little longer. I think there's so much there anyway for almost all the characters. They can expand that almost in any direction, and I think the way that George did it is to his liking, to the story he wanted to tell. And again, like he said, we make up for it in the Clone Wars. It's interesting that how Obi-Wan wrestled with his orders. He felt attached to Anakin, which I think was almost reverse. We talked about attachments.
Yeah, I love that.
We
that
never talked
really
about
awesome.
Obi-Wan's attachment to Anakin in that respect. And what a great idea, great observation. He also talked about he's neglected his role as a mentor.
The parental topic when he brings up when he talks about the going from parents to brothers. I thought that was strong. As you mentioned, the attachment thing is tremendous. I'd never thought of about that before. I agree with you. It's
a good relationship. I wouldn't say it's really his parental role, Obi-Wan. I'm talking about Obi-Wan here. He even says in the film, he's like, we were brothers. I call them more brothers than a father-son role. I think in some respects, maybe in episode 2, it's more of a father-son role, but still, there's still that friendliness about them. They're still kind of like, joking each other back and forth. I think there's definitely a strong bond between brothers there, and I think that's almost stronger, if you will, between brothers than it is father and son.
Well, it's a whole different dynamic. I mean, you and I both had brothers. We're both parents to sons. So it's a very, very different dynamic, extremely different. But there are similarities. There's that mutual respect and love and admiration. And I guess it could be confusing. The whole hands-on, hands-off approach, that's one of the tricks to deciphering the sequels. And I'm choosing the word deciphering consciously because the Clone Wars that Dave Filoni and company brought us fleshed out Anakin's character, and as we mentioned with James, make him likable. Might help us understand his bond with Obi-Wan much more clearly. So it fleshes out all these things. Interesting that an animated feature fleshes out things from a live-action film because there's so much there that we sort of have to do a little bit of work on. And I'm fine with some of the ambiguity and using your imagination. There's so much power in imagination, clearly. And George Lucas encourages that at every turn, which is one of the reasons why we keep coming back to Star Wars. So it's not an easy one. This is one of those topics, much like Anakin, that I feel like we're going to be revisiting quite frequently.
Well said.
In honor of having this momentous episode for us, Coffee with Kenobi show number 12 with James Arnold Taylor, our dream guest, Corey and I are proud to announce that we have a little contest. We're going to give away an autographed copy of James Arnold Taylor's book, JAD 365. And here's how you win. Go on to iTunes and write a review of Coffee with Kenobi. We'll be sure to announce the winner for this on our next show. An autographed copy of JAD 365, which is really exciting. And if you're one of our incredible listeners who has already left a review for Coffee with Kenobi, you are already eligible to win the prize.
Yeah, definitely get on that because that's a great way to get exposure for us and all you guys who write in to get exposure for you and all your thoughts and emails. And again, it's a wonderful book. Check it out, JAD 365. It's an autographed copy. Be sure to write a review and get entered in this great contest.
Our topic for show number 13 is toys. Jeff McGee from Assembly of Geeks and Talking Toys will join us to discuss our favorite Star Wars toys. Why do we collect them? What makes them so special? And, of course, to open or not to open. That is the question.
Dan, I'm not a huge collector of toys. I think they're all very awesome, very cool. I'm very specific about what I do get. That's just me. That's preference I have. And you're a big collector. I know Helped You Move. You got quite a collection. I know a lot of Star Wars fans out there have huge collections. I'd be very excited to get a lot of fans writing in on what they do, how they display them, or how they get them. Do they, like I said, do you open them? Do you not open them? Do you play with them? Do you set them up? Write in with your comments or send an MP3, and we'll feature on our next show.
And listeners are in for a treat because Jeff McGee, if you've ever listened to Assembly of Geeks or Talking Toys, not only is he smart, but he's hilarious. So we're going to have a good time talking with Jeff.
I like the sound of that.
Echo 3 to Echo 7. Ano, buddy, do you read me?
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
So we get a chance, Corey, to go into our listener emails. Last show, as a lot of people noticed, we didn't have a listener email section because we had such a long, incredible discussion with Drea that we didn't want to give people a 3-hour podcast because we knew that would be a lot to digest. So we're a little bit behind on emails, which is a great problem to have. Very exciting. So many awesome things from all of our listeners, and The first one is from Laird Malamud of the IndieCast, and he puts, "You are doing such a nice job on the recent shows. The one on the Order was great, and loved hearing 2 references to the Jedi games that I was the executive producer on, Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. And the one with Becca I just heard today I was impressed by the thinking. Looking forward to villains. Interesting. I personally believe that the only character in the 6 films that never wavers is Leia. She is always true to the cause in the mission. Even falling for Han, she never wavers on being true to the rebellion. Luke starts whiny and disobeys Yoda in the cave. Han is in it for himself initially. Lando makes the wrong call. Qui-Gon is too obsessed with obtaining Anakin that he sets up him being away from his mom, which he cannot handle. Obi-Wan missing the Padme relationship, and frankly, all the Jedi Council are dense. Even the droids are sort of self-absorbed. Of course, that just makes them human. They have foibles and mistakes. That just makes Leia more of an ultimate hero in my mind. Anyway, long way of continuing to say how much I enjoy the show and the work you and Corey are doing. Best, Laird Malamud." And Laird is a talented guy who worked on the Young Indiana Jones series for Lucas, and he's just a great guy, a great listener. He's been emailing us back and forth. We hope to have Laird on the show sometime because he's got a lot to offer. I love how he, I don't know about you, but I love how he talks about how everybody's foibles.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talked about villains last show, and he has some great aspects here on a lot of the heroes of the series. I'd be interested to have that as a topic, maybe kind of the wrongdoings or the errors of some of the heroes makes. And he makes it clear that he thinks that Leia is the ultimate hero. I'll be interested to know his analysis on all that. Our next email comes from Melinda Wolf, our great blogger from our website. If you get a chance, go ahead and check those out on our website. We got quite a few new bloggers out there ready to give you guys brand new things to read and things to check out. And like we mentioned before, some great contests. So again, check those on our website. And she says, "Hi, Dan and Corey. Another awesome show. Are you guys getting tired of me gushing about how much I'm enjoying the podcast? I have to tell you, I call it as I see it. Always have, always will. It's only that I have thoroughly enjoyed them all. They keep getting better and better. And that's not to say I think there's anything lacking in the first couple of podcasts. That most certainly is not the case. The subject matter of the interviews have just added so much dimension of the way I think about Star Wars, and that I have a great time listening. I love, too, the variety you incorporate in each podcast. News, the shot of espresso, telecast from various cons, when available and appropriate. You even throw in bits about Indiana Jones, Disney, Marvel, Dark Horse from time to time. Variety keeps the show fresh, and it keeps listeners happy. Beck was great on the show about Anakin. I really enjoyed listening to all 3 of your perspectives on the young man who was destined to become Darth Vader. They certainly expanded my ideas and thoughts about Anakin, who, by the way, is not one of my favorite characters. This has nothing to do with the Jake Lloyd, Hayden Christensen acting. Anakin, or Darth Vader, don't even make it to my top 10 favorite characters list. Yes, I find Anakin interesting, but definitely not a favorite. All I can say is, keep up the great work. I know you will." And that's Melinda Wolf. I find it fascinating that she detests Anakin. I was, wow, that's interesting. That should make her top 10 out of 10 characters.
I know. Well, she doesn't say detest. That's
right.
Word, but I agree. She is about as big of a Star Wars fan as out there, and I find that interesting too. But it doesn't surprise me though, because Vader is pretty evil and nasty, and Melinda is very happy and awesome and pleasant. So I can see that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I appreciate the comments on our show. We certainly are proud of the show and work hard to keep it interesting. And we always look at it this way: if it's something we would want to listen to on a podcast, it's what we want to put in ours. So it's a constant inspiration, constantly, hopefully getting more and more exciting as we carry on. So thank you, Melinda. Our next email comes from Nathan Garza, and he writes, "Hello, this is my first time writing to a podcast, but I've really enjoyed your shows. It is great to listen to a podcast discussing Star Wars with intellect instead of fanboy gibberish. One topic I've always wanted to hear discussed is, how would the original trilogy be different if the prequels were made first? In other words, what if the movies were made in order starting with Episode 1 instead of Episode 4? Watching the movies now, there are scenes where I feel some of the prequel information could have been brought in. For example, in Episode 4, when Luke gets attacked by the Sand People and Obi-Wan finds him, there's a scene when Luke is telling Ben about R2 trying to locate him. You see Ben give R2 a weird glance, but I always thought it would have been awesome to also see him in secret, pat R2 on the head and whisper something like, "Hello, old friend." When the original trilogy was made, there was no reference to Obi-Wan ever knowing R2. Now, since the prequels and Clone Wars have been made, we We know that they did know each other and worked at times together. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, especially if you're to dedicate a show to this topic. Thank you for making an excellent podcast, and I look forward to many more shows. Well, thank you, Nathan, and how cool that this is the very first time he's written to a podcast. So I know how awesome it was when I first heard my emails read by Ed Dahlstad on the IndieCast. So always cool. Again, we love people writing in. We love sharing your emails. It's so important as a fan community because Corey and I are just fans too, when we just have microphones. We're no different than anybody else. So the fact that we can get all of everybody's input and suggestions and comments, that is what makes the Star Wars fandom go round and round. So we love it. I also want to point out, I love this idea. Don't you?
That's exactly what I was going to say, Dan. That's the other thing. The majority of our ideas are basically fan-driven. You guys write in and say, hey, what do you guys talk about this or that? And we're like, that's awesome. So we have this huge list. And we're definitely adding this one to our list, and who knows who the guest will be. I mean, it could be anybody.
Well, and I do think that if it was presented like this real briefly, that obviously the prequels would be the ones that everyone would love because that would be what everyone grew up with. I mean, maybe that's too basic a way to look at it. I do think that Obi-Wan, Sir Alec Guinness, kind of looks at R2 a few times with a glance of recognition, but he's not sure. I've always been intrigued by that because they were together all the time. It'd be like maybe, although, you know what, maybe droids are like cell phones and they have so many of them that they encounter. He had R4 in Attack of the Clones. So who knows? I think that's interesting to see how that came about as well. Well, thanks for your email, Nathan.
Our next email comes from Kenny Crowley, and he writes, Hello, Coffee with Kenobi. A few episodes ago, you guys talked about the changes to the Star Wars films for the special edition from 1997, 2004, and 2011. Here are some of my thoughts. First off, I like the changes to the films, mostly to upgrading the picture and the sound mixes for the films. Of course, the changes to the films for Episode 4, A New Hope, the Mos Eisley added scenes, the Battle of Yavin added the X-Wings versus TIE Fighter battle, etc. for The Empire Strikes Back, the added Wampa scene, the Battle of Hoth, removing the matte lines around the snowspeeder, and the additions made to Bespin Cloud City for the Return of the Jedi. The ending scene where you see the added planets like Bespin, Tatooine, Naboo, Coruscant, and also the Hayden ghost of Anakin Skywalker at the end of Return of the Jedi. Yeah, I know some don't like it, but I thought it connected the original trilogy to the prequel trilogy. On to the changes I didn't really like. For Episode 4, Greedo shoots first, of course, the Han and Jabba scene from the first one in 1997, and the added scene of the CGI Imperial shuttle Tidarium, added to The Empire Strikes Back, that was not from Empire, that was from Return of the Jedi. Take care, guys. Keep up the great work, and may the Force be with you. Kenny Crowley. Well, thanks, Kenny. We did come up with a lot of that stuff, too, when we analyzed it. And it's great to hear what other people think and pick out, particularly to them, because it's different for almost everybody, I think. And definitely, I think majority of the fans will say that Han shot first.
Yeah, there's certainly certain things that are almost universal and that everyone seems to share. I never thought about, and it always bugs me when I watch it, but I didn't say it on our show with Ed. But I hate too when they put the Imperial shuttle Tidarium into Empire. It shouldn't be there. That the power of that is again when you first see it in Return of the Jedi. I don't think we need these motifs to keep popping up throughout the saga. You didn't need Jabba in A New Hope. You just wait till the big reveal in Return of the Jedi. So I agree with him. And I also want to put in a plug-in for Kenny because Kenny puts a lot of really awesome reviews on our Facebook page of books and things, and he won a cool contest from Del Rey. So Kenny's definitely a fan that you should be interacting with because he's got a lot of cool insights into Star Wars.
Again, I just want to plug also, Dan, that our Facebook page definitely has a lot of great conversations on there. A lot of people talking about Star Wars, talking about our topics, and a lot of stuff that Lisa puts on there, our media specialist. She's great about putting all kinds of fun little encouragements about Star Wars, and little notes or here and there, or just it could be products, could be anything, and she's great about putting those up there and people talking about them.
Our next email is back from Wayne again. He, of course, added a really interesting insight into Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he just got a general one that we wanted to share. He says, so, just as a follow-up to the conversation last week, wanted to chime in a possible way to look at the slaughter of the Jedi, including younglings from Anakin's viewpoint. This is in no way condoning his actions. He is, after all, the bad boy. I'm just analyzing the situation. In Clones, we see his remorse over the murder of the Tusken Raiders come after his full confession that he killed them all, the women and the children. People don't seem as taken off guard at that moment as they probably should be, but when I saw Clones, I gasped. That's the moment right there. Everything changes for him. Key things I look at there are that he's trying to justify his actions long before he's showing remorse. They're like animals, he says. He hates them. If you look at it objectively, he's explaining why he did it. Sure, they kidnapped his mother and tortured her, but the children probably didn't do that, did they? We have no way of knowing. Nonetheless, based on the actions of a few, he found them objectionable as a whole. He's saying that they're not worthy of living. Any of them. Padme comforts him in his actions and says to him that he's human, but he corrects her, saying he's a Jedi and he's better than that. A scene added back into the film between the film print and the digital version, by the way, showing that Lucas decided the dialogue was needed for that moment and thus important. Flash forward to Sith. He does the same thing, but this time it's to the Jedi. It's to innocence. Or is it? Again, this is looking at it through the eyes of Darth Vader. I mean, Anakin Skywalker. He was raised in the Jedi Order. He knows that the younglings have no family. He knows that these are beings without attachment. They don't have the same emotion like he does. They're cold and disassociated. Also, they're not citizens of the Republic. They're Jedi. The situation he's painted with are that they were once servants of the Republic, but now they're taking over. He's seen them become more of a military organization. He doesn't want to do it. He's visibly conflicted. He doesn't run in there skipping and slicing away. He walks into the room. There's an actual on-screen pause there before he even ignites the lightsaber. For dramatic tension, perhaps. Or is it representing an actual moment of pause? Is he thinking, will he really go through with it? He knows that anyone at all left behind will come for him. Best to wipe the slate clean and do it while you're in the flow. After all, Palpatine was very specific about that, wasn't he? Leave no one. Like I said last week, it's a downward spiral. Wayne Barnes. Well, Wayne, tremendous insights as always. It's a scene that people are always going to have a problem with, and there's an email coming up later in our show that adds an interesting light on it that I hadn't thought of before. But it's true. I don't know about you, but that scene in Attack of the Clones, I've heard a lot of people that Episode 2 is their least favorite and they can't stand it. But that scene with the Tuskens is so character-driven and so powerful. The music, and I have goosebumps just talking about it now. That's a really strong scene, really important to his character. And I love the fact that he's pointing out that he's justifying his actions before he shows remorse. And because a few do something, because of the actions of a few, he says he found them objectionable as a whole. It sounds very much like something Hitler did.
I agree with you, Dan. I think that scene for Episode 2, the Tuskens, it's a climatic scene, really, of that episode. Because it's, I think we talked about this too. It was kind of like that turning point as his downfall was kind of like.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too is, we talked about attachments, and we talked about his mother being that, it's like kind of almost everything is coming to a head in a sense. And then, I mean, what else does he have left to do but use his anger in that moment? I also like what he talked about. The younglings and them having, they don't have emotions like he does. I find that interesting he says that because they're still childlike. They're still children, even regardless if they have parents or not, or what their situation is. And I understand he could really feel like the Jedi are becoming a military presence, but I think at that young age, there's still an innocence there. That, too, is very pinnacle to his change to the dark side. Like we talked about the Tuskens Raiders. It's like that, almost those scenes could be side by side, and you would see that character just come right off the screen.
Right, yeah, he crashes hard, and he takes a lot of innocent lives with him, and he's a bad guy. He's He's lost it.
Absolutely. Our next email comes from Sam Simbulan, and he says, "Hi, Dan and Corey. Oh, wow, so many great things to talk about Star Wars. Many thanks to your podcast. We can chime in on dissecting these stories. I want to talk about a couple of things that said in a previous podcast. I hope I'm not too late. About Return of the Jedi and Luke turning to the dark side. Although it may seem that Luke was going to stay on the side of the good, the story shows that Luke was tempted. Luke force choking the pig guards. This surprised me when I first saw it on the big screen. Up to this point, audiences saw the force choke was a move only for the Sith. The question led to asking if Luke was turned to the Sith. Also, Luke's clothing get darker, and on Return of the Jedi, his outfit is all black, and his cloak like the Emperor. Even his mechanical hand poses as a reminder of who he might be. But did you notice the light gray flap in the front of his shirt? It's as if you can see his status of his heart. You can make Luke look like a Sith on the outside, but he will always have a good heart. One more note about the Ewoks. I always felt like the Ewoks was an analogy of an indigenous race. Native Americans, Asians, Hawaiian, and alike, being taken over by the white man, stormtroopers. It was nice to see, even in a galaxy far, far away, the little brown people can fight back the white man with his own wits, technology, and alliances to get back their land and win. Lucas once said that the Forest Moon has its roots from the Vietnam War. Maybe this might help folks see the Ewoks in a different light. And again, thanks for a great podcast and a forum where people can intelligently talk about Star Wars over their favorite hot beverage. Keep with the great work, guys. Sam. Well, Sam, again, we have our fans writing in with some great insight. I like how he said about the open flap on Luke's costume in Return of the Jedi. It is kind of a open status of his heart, where it's kind of gray area, if you will, kind of where he's going to go, the light or dark side. And it's interesting to take a look at that. And I agree with him. Very fascinating the way he put the Ewoks kind of as an analogy between the white man and indigenous race.
Yeah, this email literally blew me away. And sometimes I'll read something and I'll think, why didn't I think of this before? It's just it's great. The gray flap in front of his shirt, we talked about color before with Drea, and we talked about it with Tricia before. And that's a brilliant insight. I love the white man thing. The stormtrooper is a symbol of oppression, and the white man is, sadly but true, it's replete throughout the world's history in many different countries and cultures. So I was extremely impressed with this. Our next email is from Craig Dickinson, former guest of our show, big fan of our show, and we're happy to announce he will be writing reviews for Star Wars Rebels when that comes out later in the year. So that's great. We're going to have more insights from him. So he writes, "Hey guys, love the latest episode with Andrea Letamendi. I didn't send something earlier because I just wanted to see what you guys came up with, and most of my thoughts on Vader echo what she had already covered on her appearance on Full of Sith. In any case, I was thrilled to hear the insights you three discussed, especially the reoccurring mentions of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. However, there were a few points in the show I wish I could have interjected, so I'll do that here. Just as Batman has three personalities, Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Bruce, I believe Superman also has three, Superman, Clark Kent, and Kal-El. And just like his world's finest partner, both of his public personas are fictional constructions. He's neither the bumbling Clark or the unsaleable Superman. His true nature is even more complicated than either caricatures. As for the scene in Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin kills the younglings, I would borrow heavily from Paul F. McDonald's book to point out, and that's the Star Wars Heresies, I interject, to point out that this act is symbolic of Anakin killing his own innocence, and that's on page 187. And I'm going to interject too. Boom. That's great.
Yeah, that's great. I'd interject too. So that's definitely check out that book. It's fascinating. Go ahead.
Yeah, Craig, absolutely. Craig goes on to say, another great insight from Paul's book, especially chapter 14 on Jango Fett, is that he points out connections to the masks used in Star Wars and their importance in mythology, especially as outlined in Campbell's Masks of God series. Anyway, that's my thoughts. What a great show this was. I'm looking forward to the Kenobi show. Keep up the great work, guys. And P.S., I also love Crystal Skull, and Sherlock is awesome. Also, bring on the Ewoks themed show. And that's, again, Craig Dickinson. I just started watching Sherlock.
And you love it.
I do love it.
Wow,
it's super cool. And see, Crystal Skull is awesome, Corey.
Yeah, well, it's another guy for your team. So, good for you.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Of course it's good. Well, again, we can't plug Paul McDonald's book enough. I've been very slow reading this thing. I need to get back to Paul on that, and I'm going to because it's beautiful. It's like an incredible textbook. We're going to do a whole show on it at some point. Hope to have Paul on to join us. It's got some incredible outlines. Anakin's killing of the younglings is an allegory, symbolic of him killing his innocence. Yes. 1,000 times yes. We already know from Tricia's great article on Padme in Star Wars Insider from a few months ago. The end of that, when Padme dies out of grief or loss of her children, it's not so literal as much as it is an allegory of bringing balance, because if you're going to keep someone alive, others have to. It's a beautiful thing that Tricia can says better than us, and Paul says it better than us when he talks about the symbol of Anakin killing the younglings. So check out the Star Wars Heresies and find out more.
I also think we like to get off topic a little bit, jump into some comic books, jump into some other personalities, and we do kind of divulge into that pool a little bit. We try not to go too far, but I think, like he talked about the different personalities between Bruce Wayne, Batman, and Bruce, He also, mirrored that with Superman, Clark Kent, and Kal-El. What a great connection there as well. I mean, comics to come into play as far as allegories and myths and all that great stuff. We love that here on Coffee with Kenobi. Our next email comes from A.E. Welling. He says, hello, fellas. Seems I missed passing along my thoughts and opinions on the last few shows. Not sure how to do this because so much in-depth in each show and topic. So here it goes, abbreviated version. Show number 9, proper viewing order. For me, it's how they were presented to us. Episodes 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and 3. Show number 10, Anakin Skywalker. Wow. This one was a deep and excellent show. Having Becca on for a cup was outstanding. Anakin is my favorite character, as well as Darth Vader. This one character alone could be like the next 3 or 4 shows. He said, it goes on to say, Show 11, The Psychology of Villains, yet again another excellent show that could easily take up the next 3 or 4 shows alone. You mentioned this is an upcoming show. It prompted me to go back through Rise of Darth Vader, Darth Plagueis, and 2 or 3 of the Old Republic novels. I listened to the audiobook versions at work, as well as this podcast. Again, I'll stop here. As far as the book review shows, I got and listened to Razor's Edge. To me, in my Star Wars, it was okay. Too much action for Leia with the game competition scenario. And I also got Darth Maul Lockdown. Pretty good. Too much go for me, though, which is why I haven't and won't give Death Troopers a chance. Don't like the crossover in my Star Wars. That's it for this email. Gotta say, Coffee with Kenobi has become an awesome show and much needed, I think. I have thought on and wondered about so many of these topics in the past years, and it's great to hear others getting this deep about each topic. Looking forward to so many more. A.E. Welling. Well, thanks, A.E. Welling, and great little rundown of the past shows we've had and some of the interviews we've had with some of the great authors. Definitely check those out as well, and send your feedback and your thoughts. We'd love to hear all of them from anybody.
Yeah, it's cool, and I appreciate his kindness about getting deep into the topics. These are different things that we think about as Star Wars fans that we like sharing, and that's why we like having our listeners write in. A.E. Welling has always got really cool things, and he says for him it's 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. That's how I'm going to show it to my son Mason, and I also like what he talks about. It inspired him to listen to the audiobooks of some of these. I've heard that some of these audiobooks. I haven't really heard too many audiobooks before of Star Wars. I've heard that the one for William Shakespeare's Star Wars is amazing. And even Ian Desher, the author, he does the voice of Greedo in it. But the audiobooks are awesome. And we appreciate your support, Mr. Welling.
I'll also add that I've listened to numerous audio versions, and you should check a lot of those out if you don't get a chance to read that much, or you enjoy just listening to in your car or in your at work or whatever. They're great. They're put together. They're produced very well. The narrator is fantastic. It is spot on Han, Luke, and Leia impressions. Very well done.
Our next email is from Chris, and he says, I'm a big fan of your podcast. I just started listening to it, and I have started from episode 1. And let me interject. Hopefully, I'm glad that you stuck with us. The audio was crazy there in that one.
I think it's 30 minutes long, too, I think.
Yeah, it's something.
So, but it's fun.
I finished the podcast on women in Star Wars. Tricia is always awesome in her discussions of Star Wars. I saw Star Wars back in 1977 when I was 9 years old. I was into Trek first, so when I saw previews for a sci-fi movie, I was all in. It was a great time to be a kid. Star Trek reruns, rumors of a new series or movie, Star Wars, Galactica, Buck Rogers. We have more sci-fi on TV than we do right now, unfortunately. Anyway, to the topic of the episode. The discussion of Leia was really interesting. Completely missed to the whole costume change and hair on Cloud City and Empire Strikes Back symbolism. Some other Leia moments were missed in your discussion. Leia, out of the main characters, is the first one we see stand up to Vader. Even when she was first captured and brought before him, she didn't take his crap. And the conversation reveals Leia and Vader have had past run-ins, and in one of their last confrontations, Leia got the best of them. You weren't on a mercy mission this time. Also on the Death Star, she didn't cave to Imperial torture. She was able to keep the location of the base secret. And then when confronted with the destruction of her homeworld, she still kept faith with the Rebel Alliance. She also knew the deal when they finally escaped, that the Empire really didn't let them go. They were using them to find the base. It would have been cool to see her in an X-Wing, but that was too much of a stretch at that time in A New Hope, since it was Luke's story at that point. Also, out of all the characters at the time of A New Hope, she's also a symbol of the rebellion. We got to see her in that role at the end. In Empire, she was shown as one of the civilian leaders of the Rebel base and was working with General Riken to get Echo Base operational. When the Empire dropped in, she was in charge of coordinating the evacuation of the base and making sure supplies, ships, and personnel escaped. She was in the command center until Han finally forced her to leave. She probably would have stayed longer if Han didn't intervene. Later in the film, she takes charge once Slowbot frees them. She tries to free Han, and then when that fails, she fights right along with Lando and Chewie to get back to the Falcon and off Cloud City. For Jedi, you covered the first half of the story with Jabba. Once we get to Endor, she doesn't wait for Luke to hop on a speeder bike to go stop the troopers from reporting in. She immediately jumps to action. Also, we saw her using some of her diplomatic training to reassure the Ewoks that she wasn't going to kill him. And as we saw with the rest of the heroes catch up, she has things pretty much in control at the Ewok village. She's also right in the middle of the Force battle to take the bunker. She was Ripley or Sarah Connor wrapped into one before they even existed in the sci-fi universe. I've added your show to my podcast playlist and enjoying the show. I, like you guys, listen to Rebel Force Radio, Forcecast, and Full of Sith. If you want a good Trek podcast, check out Missions Log, a Roddenberry podcast. They had a very good show with Okri on one of the writers from Into Darkness. They talk about the Marcus scene, which was on JJ. The scene was reworked during production, and the original concept of disarming the torpedo in space was dropped, but they never brought this one scene which would have shown Carol getting in a spacesuit. Also, in a real-world situation in the military, she wouldn't have stripped in front of the captain. As to the sexy costumes, in universes, in both Star Wars and Star Trek, they aren't treated as such. The characters never get called out for short skirts. The famous William Ware thesis outfits on the original Star Trek. They acted normal in front of one another. No one judges the other person based on what they are wearing in both franchises, unless it was a story point. The eye candy is for us, the audience, and to put butts in seats to catch the casual filmgoer or someone flipping channels on TV. Well, thank you very much for that incredible insights, Chris. And I do want to plug Chris on our Facebook page. Every time he's been listening to one of our old shows, he's been writing his analysis and opinions as a thread on our Facebook feed. So check him out and comment, because he's clearly got some interesting things to say. And I think it's insightful what he talks about with costumes, is how it's more for breaking the fourth wall, which they don't do on screen, but it's more for us. It doesn't a part of the story. He doesn't really mention what Tricia talks about with Padme's bare midriff and the end of episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I'm sure he'd find that to be in line with what he'd mentioned before with Star Trek Into Darkness. But I agree, Princess Leia, she's a character that people keep coming back to.
Our next email comes from a co-host from the Cantina House, Joa. Those guys have a great podcast over there. Definitely check those guys out. They've got some great insight. He goes on to say, hey guys, thought I'd shoot over an email. Listened to episode 11 last night and was entertained by all the psychology talk, as we are sort of hitting the same themes with Vader right now, only with a less experience than your guest. I like when she didn't toss around terms or labels, really when talking about characters, but more on their symptoms or traits, but fell shy on really labeling Vader or Palpatine. As far as the men and mask discussion went, this was something I've been wondering about myself. When I was a kid, I loved RoboCop. I'm looking forward to the new movie. Obviously, I love Iron Man, and Vader is my favorite of all time. RoboCop and Vader are actually quite similar, except that one is good and one is bad. But the physical trauma they suffer is very similar, and even Tony goes through a horrible accident. While the suit doesn't save him, like it does for the other two, what powers the suit does indeed save him. Do you see a theme here? It doesn't have to be just the bad guys that were revered in the masks. Obviously you were focused on the bad guys last episode, but I thought it was still interesting to point out. I will say, it doesn't always have to be the man in the mask to intrigue me. Hannibal Lecter, the Anthony Hopkins version in Silence of the Lambs, is one of my favorite characters in movies of all time. But they had a mask for him to wear, not to bite people, didn't they? It really is a running theme with me. Perhaps there is something in my subconscious, or maybe not so subconscious, that wants to be someone else, or to have a different life the way mine has turned out in a whole lot of respects. If I could have a tangible object in the world, I would choose a fully functioning Iron Man suit, not a lightsaber. Surprised? Well, it's not that I want to save the world. If I had an Iron Man suit, I would be cool and revered like Tony Stark. Could be the playboy type of character. Or perhaps these masks and suits of these characters are symbolization for transformation, either for the good or the bad. RoboCop becomes an unstoppable force to save the city, headed for ruins. Darth Vader truly becomes that shell of Anakin Skywalker when he dons the suit. In a lot of ways, his aspirations dissolve for a long time until Luke comes of age. So while he devolves, Vader certainly transforms because of his suit. And Tony Stark transforms for the good, both in the physical power and mentally when he becomes Iron Man. My wife Rachel loved butterflies, and that is the ultimate form of transformation on this earth that I can think of. Perhaps since her death, I can envy the art of transformation even more. Perhaps I need Dr. Ledamendi to study me. Laugh out loud. And that's from Joe from the Cantina Cast. Again, definitely check their show out. He's got a great perspective here as far as the mask go. We talked a lot about that with Drea, and quite the insight she had as well. So again, check out show number 11. He does talk about RoboCop, and I'm just going to offshoot a little bit here. My thoughts on this was he's not necessarily in full control. RoboCop is given directives by the police department and scientists to follow. And he can only shoot and kill certain things and things like that. So they're kind of ordering him around to do certain things. I don't know if this new movie is going to be about something like that, but I remember that from the old 1980s movie. But so it's a little bit different as far as he was fighting those directives. So definitely something to think about. But again, he's got some great insights as far as why some of these characters wear masks and do the things that they do. It'd be interesting to talk about, like you said, the heroes of the Star Wars universe who wear masks. I mean, we also talk about Leia going in as the bounty hunter, wearing her mask as Boosh, the bounty hunter. There's some insight to that as far as Luke and Han both dressing up as stormtroopers.
That's right. I was going to bring that up too.
Go ahead.
No. That's all I was going to say. There's some interesting parallels there with them putting on masks too. And for Luke, it's like he's in the belly of the whale. He's experiencing a new part of his life. He's going to a whole new world. Don't start singing Aladdin. And and when he does that, it's like he's taking on a new persona. He's almost putting on his big boy pants, trying to get more brave, but he's already brave anyway. So, and it is cool. I'm glad that Joe wrote in because we were going to talk about Joe and Mike are, of course, like our podcast brothers in arms. We've been on each other's shows a number of times. We'll be doing that for as long as we're podcasting, I'm sure. And they planned this Anakin Skywalker series that they're doing, breaking down his character, similarly to when we were doing the Anakin one in the Psychology of Villains. And we didn't actually talk about it with them. We didn't plan it. It just sort of organically happened. So both our shows and the Cantina Cast are nice bookends to a conversation. And we have a lot of similar listeners and fans, so definitely check them out if you haven't done so already. They're worth subscribing to. Our last email is from Wes Miaris, and forgive me, Wes, if I mispronounced your last name. And he writes in, "Hi, guys. Now that Disney has acquired Star Wars, do you think we have a better chance of getting a remastered version of the non-special edition original trilogy on Blu-ray than we did before? The fans want it. They should give it to us." Well, Wes, thank you for writing in and for listening to our show. Absolutely. And I sure hope so. And again, Disney is not one to leave money on the table. People will love it. I do know, and this is sort of scary to think about, Corey, but each passing year, we get further and further away from people remembering the movies before the special edition. I mean, I know that was only 1997. It's not like it was 2,000 years ago. But I hope that they do that because it's a nostalgic thing. No one is going in and remastered The Godfather and put in different things there. So I think it would be nice. Lucas doesn't really have a say in it either way. Or maybe he does. I really don't know for sure. I always thought that eventually Lucas would release them again. I feel like Disney would. What do you think?
It'd be really cool, I think, in 2017 if they do a 40-year re-release to DVD, Blu-ray of the theatrical version. 'Cause this has been one of those things that fans have clamored for ever since, when it came out on, beta, if you want to call it beta?
Yeah.
Betamax. So, I mean, you had a Betamax, is that right?
I talked about that in an older show. It cost me $100 for the movie.
Yeah, but I mean, that is the show that I want to say that it is the purest form of the film that fans can experience. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, very much so. It's Smithsonian. It's classic. It's museum quality, and not museum meaning it's old, meaning that it sets a standard of art, of excellence of film. It's voted by the American Film Institute as one of the top 10 films ever made, nominated for Best Picture. It wasn't the special edition that was nominated for Best Picture. It was Star Wars. I think we should have it.
Oh, absolutely.
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section, or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/coffeewithkenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, download the album Eye to Eye by Steve Torok on iTunes.
Give the evacuation code signal.
That's it for show number 12 of Coffee with Kenobi. A huge thank you to James Arnold Taylor for having a cup of coffee with us and for discussing Obi-Wan Kenobi. Be sure to follow James on Twitter at JatActor and to purchase his book, Jat365.
And don't forget, you can drop a review at iTunes to win a free signed copy. Thanks to Rob at the Bearded Trio and everyone who contributed to this show, and to all of you out there who listen to an email Coffee with Kenobi. Don't forget to send us your comments and opinions on the show topic for show number 13, Star Wars Toys, with Jeff McGee. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.
Thanks to Rob from the Bearded Trio and everyone who contributed to this show. And all of you out there who listen to our show and email Coffee with Kenobi. Did I say that wrong?
Yeah, who listen to and email Coffee with Kenobi.
Okay. Thanks to Rob at the Bearded Trio and everyone who contributed to this show. And to all of you out there who listen to